The blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. Why don't we just wait here for a little while, see what happens?
You want to die, Sidney?
For England, James? No.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Fill your hand, you son of a bitch!
Look what you did to him!
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
As you can see, I'm not happy.
What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Macho Movie Madness.
Oh, yeah.
I am Brandon, and alongside me always today is Andrew, and we have got ourselves a Iron Claw review today, Andrew.
Yeah, we're going to review something that, isn't 20 years old for once.
For a change. Yeah, we're big wrestling fans, and as most people probably that have seen us before know, and and obviously this channel name is a play on Macho Man Randy Savage. So
yeah,
obviously we're huge wrestling fans, and especially of yesteryear. And Andrew is a big fan of the territory days of the World Class Championship Wrestling. He's got the shirt on right here.
Yep.
And the Von Erichs, the famous Von Erichs versus the Freebirds. That's some good classic stuff right there.
Yeah, I go back all the way to the original run. I kind of caught it World Class at the end when it was dying out right before Jarrett bought it. But then shortly after, ESPN started showing Legends of World Class. And so I catch like the last half of it when I got off the school bus as a kid. And so it's usually the Von Erichs and Freebirds in that last half of the show. So I got to see all the good stuff. That's
some good shit back in the day, man. Yeah. So this movie, interesting A24 film, and Zac Efron playing Kevin Von Erich. What you think about that? I was kind of like, when I first heard about it, I'm like, what? Yeah. But then I saw pictures of him and how ripped he'd gotten. Like, man, he almost looks like crazy to see how square his jaw was. And then I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah, he resembles Carrie physique-wise a little bit more, but he does. He really personifies in this movie the aw shucks good old boy Kevin Von Erich.
He does, yeah.
In this, what do you want out of life? More ribs, and, stuff like that. So, if you've ever listened to any interviews with Kevin Von Erich, he's like that. I wouldn't say simple, but just down to earth.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, he's not really simple. It's like he's a simple man.
Yeah,
and he is down to earth, but he's not a simpleton.
Right.
Yeah, like he's not stupid. He's a simple guy. He likes what he likes, and
I felt like Zac Efron really captured that.
I think he did. I think he did it well. Zac Efron pretty well rounded like that, I think. So I think, and it probably just from the child acting. I don't know what it is, but he's like the one child actor that probably didn't get really goofy.
Right.
Like he matured well enough, I think, and was able to get do other things and do it well. So right off the bat, I noticed the cinematography and even just the whole the way they captured old World Class. A24 is really good about, because they usually have a lot of like period films. They're always usually based in the 70s or 80s or something like that, it seems like, and they're artsy. So right away they got that down. You really felt like it was the 70s, 80s, the early 80s, late 70s. So I really felt that. I thought the presentation of the entire film was really well done. So I really appreciated that. The like I said, the capturing of World Class Championship Wrestling and the old territory wrestling days was really good. I thought they captured the family really well. The guy who played Fritz Von Erich, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he did a really good job. Actually, all of the ones that played the brothers did a great job.
Yes.
The guy that got to play Harley Race did a great job.
Spot on Harley Race.
Spot on Harley Race. That scene, and I think, I'm sure you'll talk about it too, was we both talked about it on the way home. The scene outside the Sportatorium when people were lining up to go inside, and it showed, you had the neon letters or whatever, those glass tube lighting, as a Sportatorium. That just was so awesome to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a good visual.
Go ahead and talk about it. I felt like I was at a tailgate outside the Sportatorium on a Friday night in 1982. Right there.
Exactly.
I felt like I was actually in the movie on that scene. They did such a good job of capturing a place that no longer stands, and I'd really believe that was still there. Great job. That was my favorite scene. One of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. Same
For sure. I don't know. I think I also like the fact that they, as much as I would have loved to have seen more wrestling stuff, I kind of get why and understand why they had to just focus on the drama of the brothers and that family dynamic. And so if anybody is expecting just all world class or just old territory wrestling stuff, that's not at all what this movie is. There's the stuff that's there is amazing. And it will kind of give you an insight of what wrestling was like back in the day. But this is really more just about the brothers.
Yeah. It would have been great because, them and the Freebirds, they changed the business. In the early 80s. It would have been great to have seen more. And it would have been great to have seen them and, with Chris and Gino and maybe the hair match or something that everybody talks about. But it really wasn't about that. Like I said, it was more about the brothers. And this movie almost felt to me like two different movies because, that's their story. They're riding the wave. And like every wave, it's got to come down.
Yeah.
And, so the vibe is completely different about midway through that second act.
Yeah. And I wasn't really sure how they were going to go about the whole thing, as tragic as the story was, but also, I can't remember how long. Do you remember how long the length of the movie was? It was a kind of a longer movie.
It's just a little over 2 hours, isn't it?
Yeah. A little over 2 hours. But the tragic stuff, there was a little bit here and there. It was mostly towards the end though. They really spent a lot of time building up these characters, focusing on the brothers, the relationships, the wrestling, everything in between. Obviously, Kevin meeting his wife outside of the Sportatorium in that scene, and just really captured all of that and focused that in the movie way more than the tragedy. And then the tragedy came, and then it just came one right after the other. So it kind of hits you hard, just about as hard as it hit them.
Yeah,
and then it could have been a lot more of a depressing movie than it actually was. So I think I got to hand it to him a little bit because it's probably going to be a lot for people to take, especially if they really went into all of it in detail. And I'm glad they didn't.
In our viewing, we had a little old lady off to our left, one row back, or one row down. And after the David call comes in, she goes, "Oh no!"
Yeah, she's like, "Oh my god!"
At that point, me and Brandon turn at each other, and Brandon's, "Oh, she has no idea what's coming."
I'm like, "Oh no, just wait. This poor lady's going to be in for it."
Yeah,
and she was, man. You could just every time something happened, you could hear, and just shook her head, and she's, "Oh my god, oh," and every time.
We went to a 4:00 show. I just wish there had been more people there for it. Because I think there were 8 people in the entire theater.
Yeah, I don't know if it's already ended its wave or it was the day or the time. I don't know what it was. But it's going to be. It's not a big blockbuster movie. It's not one of those movies that everybody's going to flock to see. But I do encourage everybody to see it, especially if you're an old fan of even if you're not an old fan of wrestling. It's a really good tale of a really, really intriguing wrestling family. It's one of the biggest wrestling families ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those that gets well known for word of mouth after it wins, or at least gets nominated for all these awards.
Yeah,
like a lot of people. I remember back in the day, people didn't know what Jerry Maguire was, and then it won all these awards, and everybody, they're chanting "Show me the money." And so I think this has a chance to be kind of a movie like that. Although this is maybe not quite to those heights because this is not a feel-good movie. So
right, it's not.
But in that same vein.
No, yeah, it's like I said, it could have been far more tragic than it was.
Yeah.
It really could have.
Yeah.
I don't know. Was there any other positives or things you liked about the film that you want to talk about?
I thought the wrestling scenes, what little bit there was were really, really well done. I like the look of the sportatorium on the inside too. How
I
you
do
got
too.
kind of the one light over the top of the crowd, and staying on the sportatorium, the scene where knocking his shoulder out of socket and has to go in for the surgery. That was actually a nod to Chris, because Chris actually broke his arm on a drop kick. And so they kind of threw that in there together. But one thing I noticed is the sportatorium had emptied out. There was nobody past the first 2 or 3 rows. There were empty bleachers everywhere. And so when Mike, kind of made his comeback there in '86, that's what it was like. If you turn on the network and watch World Class, there's nobody there because everybody's, tired of the tragedy already.
Yeah.
But I thought they encapsulated that pretty good. Like I said, all the family stuff. I'll get to the negatives here in a minute. There was, you want to go ahead and get into them?
Go right ahead. I don't have anything else to say. I don't think at the moment, so go right ahead.
And this is just a nitpick for me. There was so much stuff. It shows the brothers, floating down a river, and all the time that they have together playing football and everything. And they were on the road constantly.
Yeah.
So they needed this, to show the bond of the brothers.
I think so. Yeah.
But so that when they just rip your heart out later on in the movie, that it's that much more impactful. But it wouldn't have quite been that way because they were on the road. I think they were on the road at least 5 days a week in the Dallas territory, and sometimes double shots. So, that's just nitpicking. But
yeah, well, they touched on some of the habits of the brothers, like David and Carrie, when Carrie got into it, and they touched on that a little bit, like in a more of like a montage type deal.
Yeah.
But they really didn't go into that real deep and heavy either on how bad and wild they got. And I think you're right. I think if they would have shown the excessive travel too, that might have maybe better explained the issues that David would have had or Carrie would have had. Because, like I said, it did show Carrie having an issue all the way up into the early 90s before he took his life. But I think that would have probably had a better impact on why he was so down when he called Kevin up on the phone that night.
Yeah.
In the movie.
Then you're talking like a 3-hour movie to show him.
I know.
Yeah.
So, and that's thing. I don't really have, it's not really a negative that they didn't touch on all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because it kept the ball rolling a little bit, but it would have better. And then and it's not really a big negative, but there was some things obviously that were inaccurate and the timing was just a little off. I think you said Kevin got married in 80.
Yeah, in like 1980.
Yeah, and then this here shows Kevin getting married basically the week before David went to Japan and then died.
Yeah,
which would have been in 83. Yeah. So it's just there's some stuff that's off there a little bit.
Yeah, you've got Kerry Von Erich winning the world title in the same night, having the motorcycle accident, which happened 2 years later.
They implied it, yeah.
Yeah, some convenient plot devices, but I understand they had a story to keep rolling.
Yeah. Yeah, it all got there. I think there wasn't really any other negatives except for Ric Flair.
Woo!
The guy who played Ric Flair, guys, it's no bueno. It's no bueno. It took me and Andrew both out of the movie for a little bit.
We laughed.
It was like, I'm like, who the fuck is this guy?
How do you get Harley Race of all
so
people?
Good,
so right,
right?
And Ric Flair like
that wrong, right?
And the woos were awful. How can you not just grab a sound clip?
Yeah, I would rather they dub Jay Lethal in on all of it. Just had Jay Lethal do the voice and the guy mimic him and get a better wig because the hair. I don't know, something. I know that just. I mean, I guess that in a way shows that there's only one Ric Flair and there's nobody else that can be Ric Flair. Yeah. So props to him. But at the same time, you're like, man, they couldn't have found anybody else that could have done a little bit better of a job, at least with the voice. He really tried. I think I'll give him that, but it was not. Not good. Not good. It took us out for a minute. for me, you know, knowing the tragedy, it wasn't really all that sad until the very end. There's a scene with Zac Efron with Kevin and his boys at the very end that really did get to me. That was when it really hit me. I thought they did a really good job there. Zach did a good job there. But
I once had 3 brothers. Now I'm not even a brother anymore. That line hits you.
Yeah, it hits. Yeah, and I'm a brother, but I don't have brothers. I just have one sister.
Yeah,
but it still hit me, you know, because I've also got friends that are really close. You know, you guys are close enough to me, basically like brothers.
Yeah.
So it would hit me too. I mean, it got me.
Yeah. One of my good friends out there, he lost it on that scene. He's lost 2 of his brothers, and shout out to you, brother. You know who you are. So he said that scene got him. And that scene, I was fighting back a tear in there. I wasn't going to show you, but I was fighting back a tear.
I mean, I got goosebumps a little bit there when I'm like, because I was like starting, and I was like, man, this is and it made it even worse when the boys come up and say, oh, we'll be your brothers, Dad. Yeah, you know, or whatever. And I'm like, man, that's rough. There's no crying. There's no crying on Macho Movie Madness.
Yeah. Zac Efron endures and endures and endures in that, and they finally let him cry and release him into that movie. And that was perfect timing.
It was really good to send that off, and you know, and they really set it up well too, because I mean, from the beginning when he was, you know, the woman who became his wife, you know, they were eating at the diner or whatever, and he's like, I love my brothers. I want to be with my brothers. I want to do everything with them. You know, she's sitting there thinking about the future with him, and he's like, my brothers.
Yeah.
You know, wasn't picking up any hints. He was bad at picking up hints, but they really set that up. And I do have another, it's not a negative, but so the scene where they were, I think it might have been the mom sitting there watching Carrie at the Parade of Champions, and it showed the ghost of David behind her on the steps. I didn't mind that.
I actually missed that.
Yeah, it was him. That was the David's ghost, because then she turned around and looked up and he was gone.
Oh yeah, I completely.
But you could see kind of like a transparent figure of David sitting on the steps watching the TV with her.
They George Lucased him in there.
Yeah, they George Lucased him in there, and then at the end, right after Zac Efron picked Carrie up and put him on the table, you know, I guess you could interpret it one of two ways. Is this just something that A24 did to be kind of artsy? And, you know, because it showed Kevin walking out or Carrie walking out of the house on a you know, fully healed foot, like he's in the afterlife, and he gets in the boat and he floats to his other dead brothers, and they all hug and they embrace the little one, Jack Jr.
Yeah.
You know, and it was not a bad scene, but I'm like, man, it's weird. Did it not feel weird?
It's almost fan service in a way.
Yeah, I don't know. If maybe it just felt and other people may not have a problem with it like I did, and it's not even like I really have a problem. I think it just was really weird. I'm like, this is a little bit more. This is more artsy than I wanted it to be for a tough, like a wrestling film. It's already tragic enough, but you could also look at it like maybe Zach, because Zach was sitting there, or I keep calling him Zac Efron, but Kevin was sitting there with Carrie on the table. He's dead, and he kisses him or whatever, but before he kisses him, this happens. So maybe this is what Kevin is imagining Carrie doing now.
Could be.
I mean, I guess that's one way you can interpret that. And that's what I might go with to make myself feel better about that scene.
Yeah.
But it just felt a little off. Other than that, though, this is a solid film.
Yeah.
This is a great film all around. If you are a fan of wrestling, if you're intrigued by wrestling or classic wrestling, if you're a fan of the old wrestling, this is a must watch. It's not that depressing. It's sad.
Yeah.
But it's totally worth watching. And I think, you know, Kevin and the rest of the Von Erichs, as tragic and as crazy as it was, as much of an asshole as Fritz was, it's totally worth checking out. And it's worth going back and watching some old world class if you have Peacock too.
Yeah. Yeah. Check it out. Start in about spring '83 and go forward the next couple of years. It's amazing.
It's
some of
wild.
the best wrestling going on at the time. In my opinion, way better than what Vince was doing.
At the time, for sure. Yeah. Because Vince didn't, I mean, it wasn't until the 90s that Vince was really putting out really quality stuff. Yeah. I mean, and that's, the rock and roll wrestling era and Hulk Hogan, all that was massive. It's huge. It's great, but it's just not the same kind. It's very, very entertainment.
It's very much big men, brawling.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that era WWF. I mean, you still had Tito Santana. We're getting off on a tangent, but but to me, World Class, you know, they were a little bit smaller and more athletic. There's a little bit more going on there, I think.
And I really actually kind of, and I think I mentioned this to you during the movie too. Mike was talking about the camera angles at lunch, and you know, Fred's like, no one gives a damn about camera angles, but it's funny because me and you have talked about the camera angles in World Class before and how ahead of the time that they were.
Yeah. They were ones to get up on the apron with the guys, and that all started in like 81, and everybody else was like way behind the times on that.
Yeah, so I really appreciated that little comment there. I thought that was pretty cool. I will say that for all the things that they got wrong, and maybe intentionally just to keep the ball rolling, A24 or the guys who made this movie, you could tell they cared about the source material at least enough to make a decent film. Totally worth watching. I don't know, what would you rate this thing?
Oh gosh, 8.5 out of 10. If we go out of 5, probably 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, I'd probably give it about the same for sure. Totally worth watching. Even if you're not a fan of wrestling, it's totally worth watching. And I think it's going to be that much better for you if you are.
Yeah, definitely. I've always thought they needed a Von Erich movie, you know, to encapsulate, because they're it's far enough along now, you know, 40 plus years, a lot of it's forgotten. And so it's great to see it back in the public eye. And I wish the WWE would do something, or Peacock would do something, you know, with that on the network and try to push it out there for people to see.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, maybe one of these days, I kind of hope that this leads to more old classic wrestling films like this, because there's a lot of other cool stories I'd like to see. Yeah. So just if you put Ric Flair in it, for the love of God, pick somebody else.
I would have rather seen MJF, who played Lance in this film.
Yeah, the quick for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. I'd rather they just played Jay Lethal, just have a black Ric Flair. That it would have been, you know, you know, just I mean, they're doing it anyway, so might as well. Right. At least he would have done a better job. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, we're out of here.